taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
What's up, everybody? This is the Augmented Reality podcast for June 6th, 2020, Saturday edition of the show. And beyond that, I'm just going to put the script aside for a second. I love doing this podcast, especially with all of you in the chat. All of the, our community has been exploding by leaps and bounds. Discord, not necessarily in the sense of numbers, but just the things that are happening there, the connections people are making, the involvement of people. The community has really become, it's what I've dreamed of since starting the Triple S League. Having a community of people that are a true community, friends, doing things together, talking about things, even arguing about things, but in a civil manner for the most part. So it's kind of a dream come true in that aspect. Sometimes it's hard to do the podcast. Sometimes it's just hard. And this is one of those days because there's so much negative stuff going on in the world right now. And I want to bring positivity, but there's just not much positive to talk about. We are going to talk about a few positive things, though. And I've got Cyb with me. Feel free to jump in whenever you like, sir. But there's a lot of you are struggling. I know that. And I hope that our community can bring you a bit of a sense of normalcy, a bit of a sense of escapism. And that's mostly what we're about here. Escapism, just being part of a fandom. And I wish, like I said, I wish we could bring more positive stuff today. We're going to be talking about the delay of Night City Wire. I know there were a lot of strong opinions about that. Some expressed on Discord, some expressed in our, comments on our videos. Some we've just picked up on the, just searching on the internet. But I'm worried about you guys because, there's a lot of chaos going on in the United States right now. It's in some cases spreading around the world, and even if you don't live in the United States, it's affecting you. And we've already come through months of social isolation and quarantine, and so I just hope you're all doing okay and staying healthy, and that the chaos stops soon. And I mean, there's more to it than just things are bad. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are angry about certain injustices that have happened and certain injustices that are going on. And there's also just, there's a lot of factors at play, and the situation is very complicated, and it's hard to sort through it all. So we're trying to come up with ways and trying to set time aside to try and provide more escapism, but and like I said, it's unfortunate that we kind of have to focus on real world stuff in today's podcast, but we're going to do it as light as possible. And I just want to also express my deepest thanks for, we have had new members joining, we have had new Patreon supporters, people on Patreon increasing their contributions. I mean, I'm blown away. We are not worthy. A couple of nerds just talking about games and stuff on a podcast, and now all of this is happening. I am deeply touched by your generosity, and that you're helping us continue to do this and get things out there. So there is my heartfelt thanks to all of you. So, and if you're new and don't know what the hell I'm talking about, well, join the Discord server, stick around and find out. So anyway, welcome everybody. Okay. I just needed to get that off my chest. I know Cyb wants to say something too.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be doing an after show thingy. Not after show thingy. I'm just going to be hanging out in one of the chat rooms in Discord afterwards. Usually somebody starts streaming and playing some games, and that's becoming a little bit more commonplace and on I can't do it all the time, but Wednesday was really fun, and we're going to do it a little bit today. So yeah, as far as the world goes, I mean, I have been through some pretty rough stuff, generally speaking. I have actually lost a brother to direct violence. I have, you know, buried more than two direct family members, and like closer than brother. Uh, so it's life can really get down from time to time, but I kind of wanted to start today on my side from just saying things are actually looking good if you know where to look. Like if you know what you're looking for, and if you're looking in the right places, uh, you can see a lot of really positive things. And there are some very positive things starting up in certain places that are like key, that are like really important. Not to downsize or to put anybody down particularly, but there's like, if you're talking like world order peace, essentially, there's a few things that have to be like going on and going good in order for, people in small places in small side towns to, not to to have like, a sense of normalcy and like, a moving forward of society. And one of the things on this was the successful space launch and docking on the International Space Station of a private company. This has never been done before. This is a new step in many new directions. If this continues at the pace that they are currently setting, so if SpaceX and their competitors manage to maintain even a partial 50, 60, 70% of the progress that they've made in the last like 10 years, in the next 30 years, we're going to be having regular trips to the moon, and and quite possibly setting up a permanent base there. Um, and that's for the most part, like this is if you're into like, wanting to see the stars and have your uh, grandchildren, great grandchildren, great great grandchildren see new stars. This is obviously something that is exciting and cool and new. And there's certain technologies. There's been some a gigantic leap in the rate of biological age slowing that has come out in the last 2 months. And so there's stuff that's happening in really important places that are groundbreaking. And I'm not talking like, new TVs or a new different cell phone. I'm talking about like really important advancements, like really important stuff. And so there's been that, but also just locally, things that are important. We were expecting to, well, not we, some idiots in the press were expecting to, to see the U.S. government hit 20% unemployment, and the numbers have started to reverse quite drastically, quite quickly. So stuff like that is important and can help to build a positive future. You can't have a positive future if 40% of your population is unemployed, and literally doing nothing. Like that's just a recipe for disaster on a personal level, on an economic level, on a on a mental level or a spiritual level, whatever you want to call it, for like, the spirit of a people. So yes, there's a lot of problems and there's a lot of things, and I have been there to see them firsthand in many cases. But things are turning around, and so there is a silver lining to the storm that we're under. It's going to get worse. Honestly, if you want my honest opinion, it's going to get worse over the next like year and a half, 2 years probably, in various places, not universally, but just in certain situations, in certain things. It's going to get worse over the next like year and a half, 2 years, and then we're going to see a positive, very drastic shift towards the better. And my numbers have never been wrong. I mean, Ash can attest that I've been wrong like once or twice here or there on like some minor stuff, but just generally speaking, my predictions are scarily accurate.
And you're so
Um,
humble too.
and I'm so humble about it too. It's one of these scenarios where it's like, look, I don't blame the weatherman, right? If the weatherman has a perfect record, it's not his fault, for the weather. But you can, and it's not
That has
necessarily
never
like
happened. That has
he,
literally never happened.
yeah, I know. Or it's like weather's a kind of whatever, but it's just numbers. It's numbers. It's humans. Here's a good term from a friend who passed away recently. It wasn't his term originally, but he did have a habit of saying it. There is no new news. It's just old news happening to new people. S- There's no new news. Like nothing new ever happens. It's just old things that happen again to people who are new who don't remember that it happened before. And I mean, I guess in the case of like going to the moon, right? Right.
That's
That's
pretty.
not even
That's
new.
pretty new.
But I mean, living on the moon, that would be new news, right? So unless you're counting the those other people that from never mind. Anyway, so there's this sense of like things are getting a little bit better, and and we like talking about games because games are great and they give us a sense of like being able to relax, and games are also, so it's really interesting. Games are both an escape and a peek into the future. They're also a peek into the past and a peek into alternate realities, depending on how you perceive them. And as much as it's like, as much as most games are there just to entertain you, to have fun, to laugh things off, and when you're playing with friends, it really changes your perspective on things. It gives you something to return to. Just talking with some gamers who had like really bonded over VR chat recently, which is it's one of those things where it's still one of the weirdest things I could think of. But it's you know that 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 they that they're bonding in VR chat all the time. I mean, I get, you know what? I take that back. It's not weird. I mean, I've done the exact same thing, just not in a VR world. So that's stuff like that is good. And so if you're playing games that are based in history, or you're playing games that are looking to the future, it's like all of this stuff is cool, and all of this stuff can have a positive effect if you want it to. Which is why, out of all the things that I could be talking about and I could be doing a YouTube channel on, games are the biggest passion, because it's not just games, it's everything. You get fantasy, you get economy, you get everything all rolled into one thing. And that's the importance of it. And that's something that certain family members of mine never really understood. It's like, well, why do you like games so much? Because they're they're everything in one. I can look to the past, I can look to the future, and I can gauge as many alternate realities current day as I want to. And it's like, ooh, very interesting.
That is
And
fantastic.
that's
That is. You know what? I mean, I don't know that I've ever heard it described better than that.
mhm.
It, yeah.
It's they're
It's like
teaching.
stories. I have often said stories are the universal language of
Hmm.
humanity. Humanity. There's an ability that we have as human beings that seems to be exclusive to humanity. That other animals don't seem to have, and that is that we can envision alternatives to reality,
Hmm.
and that seems to not only be an ability, it seems to be a primary way we express ourselves. We say, what if
Yeah.
this, what if that, and we write stories, and video games are kind of one of the latest evolutions of that ability, and it's fantastic.
And they're also so educational too. You know, a child can learn math, spelling. They can learn so many more things better in a video game scenario than if they're having trouble. Like if they're having trouble with like traditional like education, teaching them traditional like language, spelling, music, that kind of stuff. If you gamify it right, they learn way faster, because the interactability is a constant, where it's hard to be fully interacting all the time, firing on all cylinders when you're inside a classroom, because there's only one teacher and there's many students. And it depends the subject matter, of course. And I mean, Time Bean knows this very well. It's like you can only spend so much time communicating with each student. and the student and the teacher has to be firing on the same cylinder at the same time in order for a lesson to really be hitting home, and not every student can be on that at the same time. There are great teachers, and I've seen some really great teachers who manage to do that, and who manage to like suck in everybody in the room to be on the same wavelength at the same time, and that's the mark of a truly great teacher. Um, but when you have that interactive ability, in certain games, you can use them to teach. So stories and games are a way, I think, of imparting important lessons, and that's why my book is based on so much, so much of trying to like sneak that storytelling in that way.
Speaking of school and stuff, Catriox, they're talking about it in the chat, apparently finished all exams this week and is done school. Congratulations on that. I don't know what you were studying, but I didn't even know that was going on. But this is just an example of the community that's been built here. The time being saying congrats to Catriox in the chat. I love seeing that kind of thing. Also, Polly's 911, thank you so much for the super chat. Polly's says, who cares about bad things? Who cares about delays? September 17th, everybody is going to self-isolate anyway. Until we can buy space tickets to Mars. Yes, but everyone's going to need a space on that flight for their gaming PCs or, consoles or whatever. Let's all go to the moon. Moonland party. Moonland party, everybody. When Cyberpunk multiplayer comes out. Let's do it. Let's do it up. 2026. How about that? We'll mark that on your calendars. All right. Well, I feel a hell of a lot better. So, good speech, Cyb, and thank you everybody in the chat for being so encouraging. Let's get on to our topics for the day.
And the only thing that we don't want to have happen is we don't want to have, an attempt to monetize tragedy and monetize pain.
Who would do like that?
And Randy Pitchford tried to do. What a POS. I mean, my goodness.
It's sometimes, when he was being accused of certain things, we defended him.
We defended him based off of logic and honesty. We
defended it and based off of the innocent until proven guilty principle.
Yes, which is extremely important, because if you don't have that, you have nothing but insanity.
But the guy was just when you told me about this, I didn't see the tweet initially, but I was that was disgusting. What the hell's wrong with that guy? Trying to capitalize on the current crisis in the United States to sell a game, not just a game, but freaking Duke Nukem of all things.
Not to call out positivity or negativity, or try to, call out negativity,
not even
bringing
to say
in positivity,
about
not to say anything about the situation. It's like, no, hey guys, I have a thing you should buy this. Yeah, buy this. It's like, what a disgusting. So we were done with Gearbox, with everything that happened in the past. But I am so done with it is extra done. Stick a fork in it, man.
We're talking about. There's some people confusing the chat. We're talking about Randy Pitchford, who tweeted, and the tweet is gone now. Of course,
I would don't read the tweet verbatim.
No, but it essentially says, "Hey, you're angry at a certain group of people right now. You can kill that certain group of people in this game that we have that you can buy." I want to swear right now. I'm going to refrain.
It was so scummy. It was so scummy and so dirty.
Unbelievably.
Like filthy, man. Like good grief. Just really disgusted.
And I mean, that's not the only Take-Two news we have, actually. Might as well jump into that. So I mean, the developer. This is the story that we hinted at on Wednesday, and did not have time to get into. But Jason Schreier did another bit of investigative reporting. He now works for Bloomberg, no longer at Kotaku, but this is his first big investigative report now under the Bloomberg label. And it's about Star Theory, the developers of Kerbal Space Program 2. Is that what it's actually called? anyway, the Kerbal Space Program sequel. So basically, what happened? I'll just read this opening paragraph. One Friday evening last December, employees of game designer Star Theory Games each received the same unusual recruitment message over LinkedIn. It struck them as bizarre for two reasons. One, it came from an executive producer at the publishing company funding their next video game. Two, it said the game, in the works for the previous 2 years, was being pulled from their studio. So, Star Theory was working on Kerbal Space Program 2, which was going to be published by Take-Two. Same, company that they own Rockstar, they own... do they own Gearbox, or is it just a partnership? I can't remember.
It's like a really strong partnership.
So yeah. Take-Two, aka 2K, aka Private Division, this group of companies is a major game publisher, and they've done some pretty sketchy things, including outright destroying a Borderlands 3 YouTuber that we collabed with on multiple occasions, and they destroyed his channel, drove him off of YouTube
for their own mistakes.
Because they didn't like. Well, that seems to be what companies do now. They screw up, and then they go after you for talking about their screw up, like with Sony putting out fake copyright strikes against people talking about their Last of Us 2 leaks, which is fair game as far as news, but they don't want that getting out there because apparently their game sucks. But anyway,
and then they go ahead and take down their own video.
That was funny. Yeah, they went so aggressively. Anyway, back to back to what we were talking about here. So Star Theory then had a sort of all hands on deck meeting, and the owners of the company said they had been in talks with Take-Two to possibly sell the studio to Take-Two, but that they weren't satisfied with the terms, and anyway, they didn't want to sell the studio under the terms that Take-Two wanted. So Take-Two turned around, pulled the contract that they had with Star Theory. Basically, this the game that they were working on, that they had been working on for 2 years, they pulled that and said, no, you're not working on that anymore, because Take-Two owns the Kerbal Space Program IP. And then they basically offered jobs to everybody at Star Theory. So basically, when negotiations to buy the company fell through, they turned around and kind of forced their hand. And apparently about more than a third of Star Theory's staff accepted the job offers, moved over to the new Take-Two studio, and then a little while later, Star Theory basically closed because they had no money. So
so basically, what you have is a hostile takeover by the publisher, who was giving this company money, who basically looked at it and said, hey, we're not playing nice with you anymore. We're gonna cancel this. We're gonna spread a bunch of how many rumors maybe did they say, or spin around, or maybe it was just the current situation with the economic difficulties and stuff like that. And it's like, what, we really want that title. How would we get that title? Well, we should just stop giving them money, let them go bankrupt, and then offer all of their employees a special deal to hop in with us, because we're about to take everything that they own.
Basically, take away the game they've been working on for 2 years. A lot of them.
This for people who wonder why there's legal justification and why there's support for government coming in and breaking up companies. This is why. This is why the rail barons needed to be broken up. This is why other big companies, in the past have been broken up. This is why big companies in the future must be broken up, because you can't have somebody who corners the market so much and basically walks in, says, Oh, what a nice shop you got here. Well, too bad our delivery truck is going to be in the way of your front and back door for the next 3 months. I do hope you manage to save a lot of food and water because you're about to need it. And then they starve you out, basically kill you, and then walk in, take all your stuff. Like it's this is why this happens. Just a brief brief thing. Um, my grandfather remembers the time back when banks were doing this left and right. You know, a bank would be in an area, they'd be the only bank. They'd open up a loan, they'd get this farmer, money. He'd build a farm, he'd build a couple of buildings, he'd get the farm running, and then they would come over and they'd say, we're foreclosing on you. It's like, why? I haven't missed a single payment. Doesn't matter. We're foreclosing on you. And then they take everything that they have and they auction it off at a high price, or they buy it themselves or they lease it out. And then my grandfather remembers this, and he was there when the community started coming up with their own solution to this. And the solution is that they would all wear armbands. They would go to these auctions. They would force anybody who wasn't wearing an armband out. They would buy everything that was being sold off for pennies on the dollar, and then they'd turn around and give it all back to the farmer. And they did this for a couple of years, and they destroyed some of these banks who are still around today. So that proves that they didn't need the money. It wasn't a thing about survival. It was a thing about greed.
Yeah.
And this is what you have happening here. And I hope the day comes when developers and gamers and people in the industry can truly understand the danger of this of letting these gigantic corporations walk in and just take everything that they want without caring at all for the employees, for the people who make the products. Because again, this is a loss not only in the sense of companies and individuality. This is also a loss in the dream. Not everybody who makes games has the mind and the capability to create new, interesting games, right? And this is something I really hope people understand. It's like not everybody who works at these gaming companies is capable of making,
Well,
the
it
next
takes a
big game.
lot of types of people. You have the people who work on the engines. You have the people who just take the vision and say, okay, I'm going to turn that into a reality. And then you have the people who come up with the stories and come up with the worlds and ideas. Like, it takes all kinds of people, and generally, hopefully those, the people in each position is happy with what they're doing. I've encountered a lot of people who are like, when I was in school for web development and media design, I was like, I want to be self-employed. And I had other people who were like, no, I want to work for a company and have them tell me what to do every day because that's how I work best. I was like, okay, I mean, if you're happy doing that, that's good. If not, so it's not a jab at those people who are, don't necessarily have the creative swing, but they are really good at whatever they do in a technical sense. But I think that one of the saddest parts about this is the fact that Star Theory was doing really well with the development of this game. It was going so well, in fact, that Take-Two had given them a 6-month extension to add more content to the game. That's how well the development was going. And then they just kind of swooped in and decided, no, it's not good enough that you're just making the game for us. We want to own you. And now the company's out of business. Somewhere over a third of the staff members there. Apparently there were 30 people working there. So more than 10 of them, it sounds like, are now at Take-Two's Intercept studio, continuing to work on Kerbal Space Program 2. So yeah. So
this is and so I mean, this is why I don't know if we will have a good Tara kind of was talking about it. I don't know if we're going to have another good Mass Effect, because all of the people that made Mass Effect what it was, who were creatively minded and who had the vision to make this happen, they don't exist anymore. I mean, they exist, but they don't exist in that company anymore. They're gone. They left to make their own thing, and I'm really excited for what Arc Entertainment is working on. But it's just really disappointing to sit back and watch this happen to, more and more companies, because one of the things they did is they forced out the creative mind behind Kerbal Space Program. So, like, you have somebody who probably has that like, can they make a duplicate with that's just slightly better? Sure, maybe. But we know from experience that lots of games, once they lose that original, like, intelligent mind, or once that person loses the ability to come up with new stuff, like, that's it for the thing. It's just gone. It's like a bad band, right? That breaks up, and you're like, oh, will Joey bag of donuts? Will he's finally on his own. He can make his own greatest music ever. And then you discover that Joey Bag of Donuts, that his greatest musical skill and asset were the other four members in his band. And he comes out, and it's like, wow, he sounds like a frog with laryngitis singing. And what is this style? It doesn't even make any sense. And then they just fade into obscurity. But how many people, how many of his money guys, how many of his like people behind the scenes were like, yeah, you go ahead and leave that band, leave them all alone, and you just forget about them. You're the talent. You're the talent. I have seen this so many times. So many times where it's like, oh yeah, we totally expect that this will happen, and then it doesn't happen, and then the people who cause the problem, who leave because, oh, I need to be my own thing, and they end up becoming nothing. It's like, yeah, this happens a lot, and this is what's happening in some of this game industry, and it's coming right at you from the corporate overlord of this stupid company who has on retainer basic basically thugs that will come in and show up at your door and threaten you. This is the company that has this on returning. So, for the love of God, in the future, any developer listening to this, anybody who gets into making games, I tell this to every single indie developer that I speak to. Never ever sell out to the big company. If you can make deals with them, but never sell out. Never sell out. Make a deal that you own, that you control, that you can walk away from with everything intact. If they really want it, they'll make a deal on that level. If they want it enough, they'll make a deal on that level. But if you sell out everything, be prepared to lose it immediately. And know that your baby, your intellectual baby, will probably be stolen at some point. Because that has happened so often. And there's so many things that we've seen how this works. And
do you remember when we had some group or company tried to buy our Fallout greatest ending video? That was funny.
Yeah. That was
all right. Anyway, so the point is, you're telling me I shouldn't break off and go solo. That's what you're saying?
I don't know. It depends how much I inadvertently say one day. You might have to.
No, I would. Yeah, this channel is definitely a team effort. I don't think either of us could have gotten anywhere near where we are on our own. All right, more on the good news front. I mean, depending on, it's at least not bad news. I guess whether it's good news or not depends on who you are and what you like. But there are rumors that Bloodborne may be coming to PC, and there's nothing official. So again, rumors, take them with a grain of salt. But I've heard this game is amazing. Have not played it myself, but I've heard it's amazing from the makers of Dark Souls, and it's actually available on PC now if you get PlayStation, the PlayStation Now streaming service. I did not know this was a thing, but apparently, PlayStation has this streaming service, and you can. All you need is a PlayStation Network account and a DualShock 4 wireless controller, and you can play PlayStation games on your PC if you have, of course, the internet connection to support game streaming. And according to the person spreading the rumor, Bloodborne is on that service now. But apparently there may be an actual PC port coming. The first hint came from Wario64, who claimed that, who basically just said you can play Bloodborne on PC now with PlayStation Now, or wait a little longer. And then there is there's apparently a streamer called, I'm not sure what this person's name is actually called. This article calls them Sloth Mom. Their Twitter handle is, or their Twitter name is Slothborn, and then their Twitter handle is @KCExplosion. So I don't know what to call this person, but apparently they're a streamer, and they put out it was kind of a joke / way of getting people to basically draw attention to a charity or something. But basically, this person is saying, for those just joining me, yes, Bloodborne will be coming to PC. I've had it confirmed by a very trusted source, and I have a lot of faith in the company who's doing the port. You won't be disappointed. It genuinely is happening. And then there's apparently a Reset Era moderator who also claims that the rumor is real. And Lashman on Twitter has been hinting at Bloodborne for PC for a while. So, again, all rumors, but the reporting I'm seeing on this seems to be saying there's some credibility to this. At least that the people talking about these rumors have some credibility. So, maybe coming to PC, and it wouldn't surprise me, considering, we just saw Horizon Zero Dawn coming to PC. A Naughty Dog job listing asking for NVIDIA expertise earlier this year also suggests that The Last of Us Part 2 has a PC version in the works. Obviously, none of this is 100% confirmed, but interesting rumors.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then also on the good news front, there's a new Cyberpunk 2077 song, a new samurai song from the band Refused, who is taking on the persona of samurai in Cyberpunk 2077. Got to get all my terms and names straight here.
Are you sure we're allowed to be talking about this?
It's public out there.
It's public now?
No, the video is like it's publicly been shared all over the place.
Okay.
The video is unlisted on YouTube, but the way it was discovered is for people who bought the Cyberpunk 2077 Xbox controller, including one of our somebody in our Discord community. I can't remember who posted about this, but there is a QR code on, I don't know if it's on the back of the controller or on the back of the box. Somebody can clarify that for me. But originally, it took people to the original pre-order website for Cyberpunk 2077. Now, when you scan that QR code, it takes you to this video on YouTube of Samurai, The Ballad of Buck Ravers, on the Cyberpunk 2077 YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
So it was discovered by people scanning that QR code, and
okay.
And now it's been shared all over the place.
Just to update everybody as to why I'm confused on this. So like a little while ago, it was just after Wednesday, I had a major dental thing, and so yesterday and the day before I was basically out of it. So I'm only kind of coming out of the fog of being offline for so there were a couple of things, so that just the last few hours I've been just waking up and doing stuff. So okay, good. So I listened to it. It sounded pretty good. It's not my particular preferred style, but this is only one of the bands that will be featured within the lore of Cyberpunk. So, and
they're really pushing the samurai stuff because that's Johnny Silverhand's band, of course.
Yes, yeah.
It's it's a hard punk rock. I mean, you either like that style or you don't. It's kind of and a lot of people have been saying, it sounded good, even though it's not my preferred style either. But it seemed it seemed very fitting for, you know, what the Samurai Band is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And
So anyway, that was a nice little Easter egg that they snuck in there.
yeah.
I wonder how long it was live before the first person scanned the QR code.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Just curious. All right, but since we're on the topic of Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red, let's talk about the Night City Wire delay and some of the thoughts and feelings about that. You are listening to the Augmented Reality podcast. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, the excellent conversation going on in the live chat right now, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description. It's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members, Triple S Legion members. That's what I need to say now, because the community has sort of decided that the name should be the Triple S Legion. So that's amazing, and I like it a lot. Anyway, come join the Legion. Talk about games. Talk about whatever, you know. We've got rooms to talk about TV shows. We've got rooms to talk about music. We've got rooms to talk about all kinds. There's even an off-topic room if you want to delve into like politics and the news of the day. You can go there. We sort of segregated that in its own room just so that it's you know, opt-in basically, and the rest of the server is just kind of about escapism and talking about nerdy gaming, sci-fi, fantasy stuff. And well, I mean, like it's pretty open. Well, we'll make rooms for whatever you guys want to talk about. But yeah, and then you can also use that to stay up to date about what we're doing here at the Triple S League. Click the link below to join. Be sure to say hi to us in the welcome channel. We love hearing from new people. All right. Oh, there was something else I was going to say, but it's completely slipped my mind. The joys of doing a live show, which is great. Wouldn't trade it, because doing this live is, I mean, it just adds an extra dimension to the show. But by the way, thank you for all of the encouraging messages I've been getting. I'm feeling a lot better than I was at the beginning of the show. I just, you know, I didn't want to use everybody was so down already. I didn't want the podcast to bring people down further. And so I hope you're all feeling better as well. Speaking of which, if you're looking for a way to escape, like if you're looking for a show to watch, I've thoroughly been enjoying Space Force on Netflix, the new Steve Carell show. It's got John Malkovich in it. I didn't know that before I watched it, and then he came on the screen. I was like, it's John Malkovich. I love that guy.
So there's been a lot of like negative stories about the show, and a lot of people are like, it's not funny, it's not The Office, and I'm like, when I first watched it, I wasn't actually expecting a comedy, and I think that's helped my perspective of the show, because like I wasn't really thinking like comedy.
Oh really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know it. I was expecting it to be kind of a mock doc like The Office. It's not that. It's just a straight up comedy show. But, you know, Steve, he plays a very different character than the one he played on The Office. But yeah. I've been laughing my ass off. Like, I've had to pause the show a few times because I was laughing and couldn't hear what anybody was saying. It's just so funny. And I mean, you know, it depends on your sense of humor, of course. But it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's like kind of plausible, but also it's like a little bit over the top. Like, you know, this stuff would never really happen, but they're, you know, it's mostly it's like 80% grounded in reality. And what I really like about it though is that it does, like, it pokes fun at American politics and the American political system lightly. That's like 5%. That's like, it does it without feeling like it's in your face one way or the other. You know what I mean? Kind of like classic Simpsons, poking fun at everybody in politics rather than trying to push one side or the other. You know what I mean? So anyway, really appreciate that. It's been a great escape for me. And it just made me think of it because we were talking about the rocket launch earlier. So really liked that. Okay. Let's get back to our topics for the day. So Night City Wire was delayed, of course, from it was supposed to happen this coming Thursday, June 11th. It's been delayed to June 25th. We've had a number of other gaming events that are being delayed. PC Gaming Show was delayed. It was supposed to happen today, June 6th. That's been delayed to June 13th. EA Play Live was, if you care about that, was also supposed to happen on June 11th. It's been delayed to June 18th. So it was... there's a lot of this going on, and these companies are making statements talking about the important conversations that are going on and trying to make room for voices to be heard, etc., etc. Is that sincere, or is it just PR speak? Hard to say with 100% certainty, but I suspect PR speak. My opinion is that this is happening for business reasons. In other words, they don't want the current news events of the world to be distracting people from what they're showing at these showcases, and so that's why they're delaying them. That goes for everybody across the board. EA Play, PC Games Show, CD Projekt. I think that's why they're doing it, personally.
Well,
not
so
to say that the individuals in the company don't care about what's going on, but as a corporation...
No. And there's a lot of people who are, who are taking this quite seriously, but launching a product during like stuff like this, it can be seen as bad form. It can definitely be seen as insulting. It can definitely come across as like, why would you do this? This seems really like cheap and what's going on here, right? There's a lot of that, but it's also just generally speaking, as far as like what we know from history, it's a really bad move. For people, like, why does it matter? Like, why does the States matter? Because in England, during the very first episode of Doctor Who played like the day of, or the day after, or however it worked out, on top of the JFK assassination, and the show had just garbage ratings, and they almost canceled the show because they're like, nobody tuned in. Well, of course nobody tuned in. They were all watching this other stuff. So again, from like, we've covered the human aspect of it, and there's definitely a human aspect of it, but just from the business standpoint, it's like you don't try to, like, you don't try to sell stuff in the middle of the thing. Unlike Randy Pitchford, some companies realize that now's not the greatest time for marketing. Just give it a few weeks, and then you can try. Then you can try then. And again, it's not because they're greedy corporations. Not necessarily all the time. It's just common sense. It's also like kind of decent. Have you ever had a moment of silence when somebody's trying to like sell something? Like it's like everybody, like, there was a moment of silence being held at like a park or something, and it was for this was many years ago. I was at a park, and people had gotten together and kind of like were having this like mild like memorial for a child who passed away from cancer or something like that. And there was a big pack of people. They were all standing there. They were all being quiet. Most people in the park were, still talking and yelling and stuff like that. An enterprising young ice cream seller looked at this crowd of people just standing there and went, "My goodness, look at all those people there standing there so hot and tired. They're all just standing there all quiet like. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go over there and offer them some ice cream." Was not a very good idea. And it's just, again, he didn't mean that, but he also didn't know. And even if he did, maybe he didn't understand the weight of, running, like driving his little cart up, because there's a tiny little, like basically it's just a glorified moped. And it's like, hey, buy this stuff. And everyone just gives him the dirtiest look. And he's like, what did I do wrong? It's like, again, not his fault. He wasn't malicious, but there's a time and a place, right? And so when you realize that, obviously you want to realize that. The other correlation that this has is that, it's one thing to try and sell ice cream, right? Everybody can kind of understand that. However, what we're seeing is a lot of street level violence and a lot of um, and a lot of big corporation stuff and people going back and forth. It like all the levels of it, because there's multiple levels. There's multiple levels. It's not just violence. It's not just mega corporations. It's all over the place, and there's stuff all over the place happening, and there's a lot of narratives going on all at the same time, and there's some crazy stuff. So unfortunately, when you have a game that features, violence as a mainstay thing in your game, maybe not the best time for that, right?
Especially
Like maybe
there's
not the
been a
best.
lot of comparisons being made between Cyberpunk and what's going on in the States.
Yeah.
So
But it's not all there. Like it's not like,
Yeah.
not everything that's going on in the States is about violence. Not everything that's about Cyberpunk is about violence, but those are two of the themes that anybody taking a cursory glance at what was going on is going to say, "What's this? Like, why are you doing this?" Right? And it's a it's a quick glance that really would kind of like set the tone, right? And you want to be respectful of it. So again, it's not just because it's a violent video game and there is some violence going on. It's not just about that. It's about a lot more things, but you can't, like, trying to explain that to a passerby is like, I did that Twitter post like a week ago. I'm driving down the highway and it's like it's a 70 mile per hour or is 110 depending on where you're from. And there's a billboard. It's not a big billboard. It's like a 4x8 like piece of plywood that somebody put up on some posts. And it's got 4 paragraphs of written stuff on it. And it's the background is a picture, and then the foreground is just a bunch of black lettering. Driving past at 110 kilometers, 70 miles an hour does not give me the ability to even get the first sentence done, let alone 4 paragraphs.
No, you're supposed to stop in the middle of the highway and get out and read it. So
Clearly,
don't you know that?
where there's the shoulders aren't too big, and it's like stopping on this highway is like really not advisable to begin with, let alone in rush hour traffic. And here somebody's put it the sign that's trying to make this big old point, and it's like, what do you think? There's not even a hashtag on it. I can tell you nothing about it. It started with like, "Dear citizens," and blah 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 blah, and it was like, that was it. That's all I got as I went, and I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do with that? Tell me what I am supposed to do with that, you stupid local government or whoever put it up.
All right. Anyway,
and so it's like, yeah, the finer points not easy to communicate in this particular thing. And so obviously all of these delays are happening because of that, and because of not wanting to like necessarily like give ammunition to somebody who's looking to try and score brownie points by
the media, the media, the gaming media types who would definitely go at it. How could they, do this presentation glorifying, there's this stuff going on in the state. I mean, people are going to do that. We've seen them going after CD Projekt for a lot less. So I get why they did it. At the end of the day, I think it comes down to a business decision. Again, I don't think it's purely out of ethical considerations for any of these companies. Yeah. And I'm just saying, there's multiple perspectives with which to look at this. And, I mean, it's bad PR. Like, it can be both. It can be like, oh, we realize, okay, this would be really bad PR for us to do this now. Also, we just personally feel like it's not a good time because of the reasons X, Y, and Z. It can be both. But if we're going to look at it from a more ethical, moral, philosophical perspective, there are some concerns people are having, and we wanted to address some of them, and some of them I definitely agree with. And again, not aimed just at CDPR, but definitely, some questions that could be asked of them as well. For example, why does the crisis in America affect this kind of change in their scheduling, but not things that happen in the rest of the world, like the Hong Kong protests, the Hong Kong crisis? And I saw some people mentioning that in the chat.
Well,
Very friggin' good question.
It is a good question, but it's not like there's no like they didn't have an enormous event going on at that same
Well, I mean,
time.
yeah,
that
there are
was,
those considerations too. I don't know if there was
that
anything
was
during
on
that.
its own, right? Like there was there was E3, right? You know, but E3 was a big thing, and it was all going ahead. It would be different if it was a singular thing, but it's like it's the regular thing.
But
And
let's
in
let's
that
look
situation,
past let's look past the delays for a minute. Let's look past the event delays and just look at the hashtag campaigns and the statements these companies are making. Where was all of this for Hong Kong or other crises that are happening in the world? I'm calling out all game companies that are taking part in this again, not just CDPR, but I can definitely include them in that group. And I like CD Projekt as a company. But I do have to feel like this is a little bit hypocritical. I mean, yeah, that's just my honest feeling about it. And again, it's this corporate. I get why they did this, but it's like all of these companies are just, they do whatever's expedient. And I don't want to see CD Projekt Red going too far down this road. Don't become like these other companies that only care about the bottom line, they don't even care about their PR. They only care about squeezing as much. And I'm not saying that's what CD Projekt is doing. Like, we're talking that's many, 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 many more steps down the line. But if you're going to make a statement about this, make a statement about something else too. You know, like, I don't know if I'm expressing myself very well, but I just feel like that's a legitimate criticism that can be leveled.
well, I memean, I think in most, I look at it and I'm like, in every situation, it has to be like, not every situation is the same. You cannot have a rubber stamp policy for this stuff, because rubber stamp policy doesn't adjust or fit the bill for this. Not in every scenario, and not even in most scenarios, not even in a small majority of scenarios. It's like most situations are, you have to kind of look at it independently. So that's what I would say.
That is true too, and I mean, I do agree. And again, I'm not trying to, like,
I think
I feel this way about the gaming industry in general.
Yeah. I think overall, the entire industry, and in fact, the entire world, has been too quiet on Hong Kong. And it's really disturbing. Like, it's really disturbing.
Well, I don't know. Blizzard wasn't.
My editor for my book is from, her family's originally from Hong Kong, and it's nightmarish what's happening there right now. Like hearing stuff directly from somebody who has family on the ground, it's nightmarish. It is truly, it's getting worse every day, and it seems that most of the media, most of the people in the world, is just ignoring it. And it's like things that have been going on in the other part of the country where we can't even say that, but there's a certain people group that have been, basically being chopped up for parts. And that's not my opinion on it. That's an investigative, journalist outfit that actually does do investigative stuff on an international scale. That's their official assessment of what's going on. And yet, for some odd reason, you can't even mention it without the ban hammer coming down in certain aspects. And it's like, that is disgusting. That is truly, 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 truly disgusting. That's not getting more attention. I feel like it's 1938 all over again. It's like, and it's mind-numbingly insane. Anyways, so yes, each scenario is slightly different. It's a lot of, it's a lot of public pressure and a lot of peer pressure
I
involved
get
as well.
that. It
And
bugs me because people were looking to a lot of gamers look to CD Projekt and appreciate them because they're different. They don't seem to
but I
get
don't expect
involved in a lot of
yeah.
this. And like I said, I understand the decision to delay Night City Wire. I don't I mean,
To me, in this scenario, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have been more vocal about Hong Kong and more vocal about some other stuff. But in this, I would have delayed. I would have delayed Night City Wire too. If I was in their shoes, I absolutely would have done
well,
it
and to
because it just doesn't flow right. And I honestly believe that that's the opinion of what they were at. But I don't believe that everybody in the company, especially everybody who has a voice, is necessarily saying the same thing in the same way. And so that there are some perspectives of it that are being like more brought in than other perspectives. And I mean, you have that all the time, and that's fine. That's totally
yeah.
acceptable. So, in this case, I'm with them. I think that they've done the appropriate response. I do hope that in the future, definitely, and again, the entire world is silent on Hong Kong. Not silent, but quiet, very quiet, because free Tibet, free Taiwan used to be like, serious calls, serious rallying calls for freedom, and now those calls are being snuffed out by big business and big corporations and big government who are like, no, 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 it's fine.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
Yeah.
We totally want this to happen. It's like, what? How can you want this to happen? Like, my goodness, this is horrifying. Well, we don't want it to happen, but we're just going to let them solve their own problems. Yeah, and again, I heard that in 1937 and 1938. It's like that was present then, and it's shocking how similar it is today.
Yeah.
So, I'm dating myself. Good Lord. Anyways. So yeah. It's an interesting one, and I'm just generally I am annoyed at the way that some information is being put out there. I'm always annoyed with that. I am always annoyed with just the general concept of how the how so many people can say or speak about certain things in from their positions of power and media and stuff like that, and how it's not even close to the truth. Not even close to the truth.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Well, we covered that
if
a lot.
you ever want to if you ever want to be like confused as to like, I'm always confused as to like what's trending on all of these big major sites. Like, I just glanced over this now, and I'm like, I'm looking at stuff that's like, oh, this is what's trending, and I'm like, no, that's not. 2,000 tweets is not a trending thing. That's you wanting to make that trending. Something that's
we know that
got
those trending
15,000
sections are
tweets
curated.
today,
Like,
that's trending, but you've got the lid on that. It's like,
yeah.
why?
Yeah. I just want to. By the way, poor Saib had to keep
Yeah, sorry.
keep talking there because I had to mute for a few seconds. But so if that seemed a little disjointed, that's why. It's not Saib's fault. I just want to wrap this up. If anyone from CDPR is listening, I don't want to be misunderstood here. I love your company. I think you're doing great things, and I think that I'm not even going to criticize you for this in particular, this delay of Night City Wire. For the reasons. It's just there are people are concerned when they see, like, they don't want to see you start virtue signaling. They don't want to see you start only making decisions in the same ways that other big gaming corporations do. And that's so, I mean, I don't know, if anyone happens to be listening from that company, don't start doing that. Keep being you and being what you are.
Keep being you.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that, again, this is a criticism that can be leveled at the entirety of the gaming industry. But, like, yes, I mean, stop just pandering to what's expedient. Yes, the issue that's going on in the States right now is very important. there's equally important issues going on elsewhere in the world. So why is it that this one gets special treatment? Or a worldwide community now? You know? There's brutality happening in some parts of the world, including major gaming markets. If you even want to say, you know, there's the focus on major gaming markets. China's a major gaming market. If you care about the ethics of what's happening in these countries where you want to sell your games, be consistent. That's all I want to say about that.
I wrote a thing yesterday. It was not I wasn't originally going to share it, but I'll share it today because I think it's pretty good. So please let me know in the comments and in the chat what you think of this one. So when somebody demands of you, they demand you to be perfect. Absolutely perfect. And they honestly mean it. What they're demanding is for perfection, and perfection is impossible, not in this life at least. And if they hold you to that and attempt to bind you to that resolution of being perfect, you seriously must understand that what they're doing has nothing to do with truth. It has everything to do with control. It has everything to do with silencing and controlling what you say, what you think, and how you respond. So this wasn't about anything in particular. This is actually about a scene in the book that I'm writing that's coming up in a little bit. And I just thought, because I shared that with my editor. My editor was like, "Oh my God, that's like so like that's really relevant to today." Because in every situation, in every scenario that you're encountering, if somebody is telling you to be silenced or to shut you up or to make you change your mind on something because you're not perfect, it's like that. It's about control. It's not about improving anything. It's about control, and that's what they want. And again, this is many facets and was originally like written for my book. So yeah. That's a thought that I had while I was very much out on dental medication. It was great.
Yeah, so I just want to... I'm not sure if there's anything more to touch on with regard to this. I know that, like, people have expressed a variety of concerns. It's and another one was that you know, in this, when there's all these crises going on, we need this escapism, and people were disappointed about the delay because of that.
Yeah.
You know, they really wanted something good, and so they really wanted the Night City Wire thing. You know, the what we were going to see there. I can understand that. I mean, at the end of the day, they made the decision that they made, and you know, yes, we have to wait 2 more weeks. I don't know what to say to that, because it's, I mean, and to me, it just kind of is what it is. I mean, there's nothing that can be done about it, so I don't see the point in harping about in criticizing them for that too harshly, because of that. Just because the decision was made, and we are going to get the info eventually. But I do understand people being disappointed. You know, I was bummed that it got moved as well. We want to see stuff. But, I mean, I think it's just really important right now to focus on what we do have and the positive things. Otherwise, you know, we can just get into a really bad state mentally and emotionally. Mm-hmm. And so, because, you know, and I delayed a video because with everything, again, with so much negativity happening, there's a video I was working that was supposed to go up this week that I just decided, no, this isn't the right time, because I don't want, I felt like it wouldn't contribute to uplifting people. You know, not that it was bad. It was a comedy video, but it was kind of snarky, and I was like, you know, it's just not the right time. I will put it out later. So I had a little extra time on my hands and just started playing playing some games that were in my library that I hadn't picked up yet, and it's been really good to unplug. It's been really good to get away from the internet, get away from, I spent the last couple of days doing yard work, making my wife a garden. It's been so good to spend so much time outside doing physical work and not thinking about, not being caught up in everything that's going on in the news cycle. Of course, I can't unplug from it completely because this is my job. But just want to encourage everybody to take some time, do something fun, focus on something good in your life, and carry on, and we'll get through this together. So I think that we're going to wrap the show up there, so I don't think there's much more to say. We were going to talk about this Bobby Kotick story.
We don't. I can sum it up. I can sum it up in one very interesting word: hypocrite.
Yeah, Bobby Kotick is overpaid. That's the TLDR of it, and there's just a bunch of stuff there. But it's not. You know what? I don't think it's anything that'll. It's nothing we need to delve into right now. So, corporate greed and billionaires getting richer while they fire people. Not exactly an uplifting story. And so, with that, we'll wrap up the show today. So I want to thank you all. This was a difficult show, but it came, it wound up going really well, I feel. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for all of the support on Patreon, and those of you who are channel members. Got a new channel member, Somnolence. Thank you so much. That's really appreciate that. Also appreciate our other channel members, Mr. Padzernick, Jer Schultz, Game Notes, Night City Punk, and Terror K. Great people. Our big darn heroes on Patreon, Robin, Shua82, Time Bean, Schoolamin, new patron this week as well. Thank you so much. And our 2 anonymous supporters at that level, thank you. That's all I can say. Don't forget to slam that like button before you leave. We really appreciate that. Do all of the YouTube things. Push the sub button, notification bell. Comment below if you're listening after the fact. All of that helps us out. Plus, we love hearing what you think about what we've talked about here. So leave comments below. And we'll carry on the conversation. Or join the Discord server and we'll carry on the conversation there. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cyber, thank you all so much for listening. And we will talk to you again very soon.